Thanks, Laurel. I told you she was awesome. So next up, we've got the guys from GovHub. Now, when we talked to them the other day, they actually had thought about doing a wrap of their presentation, which I hope they had done, but you know, it's kind of hard to do on short notice. So we've got Greg Lind, John Miller, and Jarhid Brown talking about GovHub open source and OpenGov government collaboration. Take it away, guys.
We've already started.
All right, go.
All right, so we're from GovHub, partners in a new website. It's a collaboration hub for government and open source. But to help us describe it better, we're going to act out, not rap, hopefully, a mock conversation as we see it happening now between government and open source. So to kind of just quick go over what GovHub is, it's shared source repositories, regional APIs, and support for government and open source developers. So introductions for this little skit. I'm Greg Lind, I'll be the open source developer.
And I'm the system analyst from the government.
And I'm Jarhid Brown. I'm going to be GovHub.
So, okay, I've got 3 projects coming up, and I need to acquire, but I've got a limited budget and no developers on staff. Is there one place I can go to find something that just works off the shelf and is operable with my systems?
You know, you should consider looking at open source, which typically are built around, accepted standards. GovHub's putting together a repository of such government-funded projects, and if you have any requirements written down.
What's that? Rather than cheap and should work, isn't it the programmer's job to figure out what our requirements are? I don't have time, and besides, I have no clue what you're talking about, man.
Okay. Well, we have wiki pages on how to write an RFP, and we have requirements documents based on the business needs you're probably trying to fulfill. Have you talked to any other government agencies?
Well, we talked to the state, but they're using a proprietary system that really locks them into long-term license deals, and I can't afford that. It'd be great if there was some place I could go to chat with other agencies to see what they're coming up with.
Well, you could take a look over here at our intergovernment discussion pages, as well as our GitHub repositories with some great open source projects, and that are being managed through GovHub by some really great open source developers.
Yeah, think of open source software as software for the people, by the people. Liberated, but not free software. It's very cool. Speaking of cool, you should check out this great Drupal module that I just wrote. It aggregates all of your RSS feeds and puts it into a nice API so that you can then use it through Twitter and tweet the results. It's pretty cool.
Whoa, droopy tweets. This is what I have a hard time with these hackers. They want to solve everything with a Perl script, and then when something goes wrong, I can't find them. They're going off working for Google, or I don't know.
We understand. Open source projects do draw in attractive, intelligent people who are often looking for new challenges. But you'd be surprised how many stick with their projects. GovHub wants to help connect open source developers and civic and nonprofit projects that need them.
Yeah, well, that sounds great, but how do I get involved? I'd love to share my projects with government or nonprofit agencies, but it's a lot of work to track down the RFPs from all of these different groups, and producing a response often takes more time than it does for me to code a project.
Exactly. We're working on an RFP clearinghouse where developers can go and get the latest RFPs as well as templates on how to help create official responses. This should help developers as well as government agencies by increasing collaboration and competition.
I'm fine with that. I'd love to see more open source developers respond to RFPs, but that doesn't solve the issue of long-term support. My boss has this perception that open source software has no intrinsic value.
Hey, no intrinsic value. I got your intrinsic value here, buddy.
Okay. There's definitely a perception out there that free software has no value because it's given away. Many people wonder how this can be economically sustainable. We're looking for ways to help projects obtain funding through grants, donation, and venture capital.
Yeah, so there's a perception that open source developers are geeks that think in Haskell code and write software out of their basement. But really what happens is they're usually companies that support open source projects, and a lot of developers have their own side projects of open source.
Open source developers and government agencies often have many of the same goals. Finding new ways to collaborate on existing projects like civic app contests and expanding access to the data services like APIs just makes sense.
So this is where GovHub wants to help. As we've implied, we want to foster innovation through competitions, much like the Civic Apps Contest, help with sharing open source and data, and help agencies with knowledge transfer on these systems. But the bottom line is we want to add value to the government.
And, this is how you can help. Go to govhubs.org, follow us on GovHub, sign into our newsletter, and support open source projects.
GovHub. Cool, thanks. Okay.